And so me, being me, I'm looking after the bride was my thinking, but also to my behaviour or my experience at that time probably had a little bit to be desired as far as helping other people feel good or dealing with situations. Be manly and the legends of humanity. Welcome to the fellowship of honourable men and women role models for boys and men, because you have the power to be a man in all its glory. Damien Andrews here for Be Manly and the Legends of Humanity, and this is the start of a series we're going to do and talk about the code. The code is Share.Care's highest set of principles that we hold ourselves to, and this was inspired by the original medieval chivalric code, the knight's code that used to exist, to the standard that we would hold ourselves to regardless of what the circumstance is. So just because you can doesn't mean you should. And I just wanted to go through each of the different codes, explain what they mean and how that works. And the first one on the list, although there's not really an order, but the first one is to like yourself and separate behaviours from the person. And this is really important, not just for yourself, but also too when dealing with other people. It's really important to remember that people and their behaviours are two separate things. Particularly how we interact with others can be driven, can seem like that a person might be, a bit grumpy, but that doesn't mean that they're a terrible person. So this is where it's really important to recognize that, and also too from a self-esteem perspective, when you're looking at yourself, to separate your own behaviors from you as a person. Now you've been born, you exist on the planet, you're an amazing person just because you exist. That's part of self-esteem, recognizing that you exist, you're awesome, just because. You don't need to justify anything. And this becomes really relevant in how you interact with things, because sometimes you might not have all the best experience in the world. And I'm relaying this from when I was younger. I was helping out at a friend's wedding, and I was out the front of the church and looking after the church, and there was a space where, or I wasn't looking after the church, I was introducing people and guiding them to where they needed to sit. And there was a spot out the front of the church for the bridal car to pull up, so the bride could get out, right out front of the church and walk straight into the church. Now, it wasn't marked, and somebody drove in and parked right in that spot. And so me, being me, I'm looking after the bride was my thinking, but also to my behaviour or my experience at that time probably had a little bit to be desired as far as helping other people feel good or dealing with situations. So I've stormed over and go, "What the hell are you parking there for? Where's the bride going to park?" And chewed the guy out for parking where the bride should park. Now, there was nothing there to indicate that was where the bride was going to park, so he wasn't to know. And it wasn't really the best way of dealing with that. Now, I could be beating myself up going, that's a terrible way to behave. How bad on me. What a terrible person I am. But I recognize today that that's a behavior. That's not who I am. I'm a good person. My behaviors had something to, well, it could be greatly improved, and certainly have since then. And because of that, I'm able to recognize how to do things differently. So I recognize that, I'm a good person and my behaviors are separate from me. They're just things that I've learned how to do things. And that's why we want to like ourselves, because we are here on the planet, but also recognize that we need to separate our behaviors from who we are. And behaviors are things that we've just learned that we just need to, sometimes we need to evolve and learn. And there's always a better way of doing things anyway. And that way we can do that quite comfortably. We're not attached to a certain set of behaviors as our identity. We are a being. We're just a being. And from there we have a bunch of behaviors that we do, that we interact with other people. And that's where it's important from that perspective to separate the behaviours from the person. So that's the first code, although they said there's not really any particular order, but the code is, one of those codes is to like yourself and separate your behaviours from your person. And it's the same when dealing with other people as well. Separate their behaviours from from who they are, because when it's on the other side and someone's not behaving in the best way, identifying that that's a behavior and not the person gives you a whole raft of different ways of dealing with that situation, which we'll talk about in another video. I'm Damien Andrews for Be Manly and the Legends of Humanity, talking about the code in our series about the code. Before you go, you're invited to continue the Be Manly and the Legends of Humanity journey. Subscribe to our YouTube and become a patron, where you can become a courageous Crusader, a wise warrior, a daring Dynamo, and even an ascending Avenger. Here you'll find all the tools to become a man in all its glory. We're honoured to walk side by side with you on this extraordinary adventure. Together, we're unleashing the full power of manhood, creating a better world for everyone.